Welcome to the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, where women leaders reveal how to liberate yourself from body battles so you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. I'm Darlene Downing, and I am your host today, and I am thrilled to be here with you. I have with me the playful, honest, and sensational Susan Bernstein, who has recently come into my universe, and I'm so excited to be sharing her with you today. Her clients call her a body wisdom whisperer because she loves to awaken the embodied wisdom within each one of us, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I really love how she has dedicated herself to waking up professionals to their embodied wisdom, and how she really helps them step out of the chaos and confusion that can come when they get caught in the spinning of their thinking mind, so that they can drop into their body and create more clarity, more confidence, and show up more powerfully in their life. So I'll read you Susan's official bio. Dr. Susan Bernstein empowers smart, high-achieving professionals to be their most sensational. Prior to launching her coaching practice, The Sensational Shift, Susan held roles in human resources, executive development, marketing and management, consulting at companies including Franklin Covey, Intel, and Accenture. Her unconventional approach to professional development is fueled by powerful mind-body transformational processes that catapult her clients to success. Based on her own challenging experiences as a management consultant, where she confronted intense stress and conflict in organizations, she's designed innovative practices and experiential workshops to provide hands-on skills in navigating, making the shift from stress to success, and from conflict to co-creative cooperation. Susan earned her MBA at UC Berkeley's Haas Business and her PhD in somatic psychology from the Chicago School for Professional Psychology's Santa Barbara campus. You can find her at her website, www.sensationalshift.com. She's joining us here today to share her love and passion in empowering women as we dive more deeply into the topic of embodiment at work and how you can connect with your body wisdom so that you can empower your body and your career. So welcome, Susan. I am delighted to have you here today. Thank you for taking this time.
Thank you so much for having me, Darlene. It's just a total pleasure to be with you and all the women here. It's just a joy. So thank you.
You're a fellow sister playing with embodied wisdom, and I can't wait to hear your perspective on how we can bring the body back into business. I think that's something that really intrigues me about your work, that we don't have to be compartmentalized, that we can bring our whole selves to our business and to our careers. So I'm looking forward to diving into that and soaking in your wisdom on that topic. And before we do, though, I'd love to start the conversation by asking you this question. How do you define empowered embodiment?
Well, I think the whole idea of being in touch with our bodies from the inside out, the lived experience, the felt sense of what it is to be in our bodies is empowering. And I think it's empowering because of a number of things. One is, when we are in touch with our bodies, we're in touch with that energy inside of us. You know, whether it's a tingling, a buzzing, a tightness, a looseness, a heaviness, whatever we're feeling in our body is our energy, our power. So that gives us the ability to go out into the world and spread our energy and our influence. So that's one. And two is, when we're in touch with that embodied intelligence, what moment to moment, we're really present. And in that presence, we can come from a neutral space. Instead of being freaked out about something in our negative mind, or like, everything's wonderful, sunshine, lollipops, and roses, and not being in touch with what's going on. When we're really present, we're in that present moment, And that opens up all the possibilities. So to me, it's super exciting that you are bringing forth this form of empowerment through embodiment. It's so ripe. It's so the time for this. So thank you, Darlene, and thank you to everybody who's watching, because I want us all to have this energy awaken us, and I want us to be in this powerful, present, neutral space so that we can open up all the possibilities that are in us, that potential that's just yearning to be born.
Thank you, and I thank you for bringing that up too. This is meant to be more than how to lose weight and how to have more energy, although those are definite side effects or the result of what happens when you practice being more embodied. It is so much about really fully showing up for life when we're in our bodies, and you and I share this knowing that so many of us can be in our heads and not be present to what's happening in the rest of our body, which has so much information for us, and we feel more energized when we're totally here. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's exciting. I mean, how cool that if we could live in a planet where all of us were fully embodied and connected to the deepest part of us, and doing that at work and doing that with our loved ones, and just enjoying the experience on our own too. So, yay!
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would love to hear your body story and your journey with your body. What was it that brought you to the work that you're doing, and were you always embodied, or did you have a different experience? Were you in your head and learned to drop into your body? What your biggest struggle was with your body and how you overcame it?
Yeah. Darlene, I for me, this is very much a professional story, and I'm going to characterize the business world as predominantly masculine energy. That doesn't mean it's all men, but I chose, when I finished my MBA at UC Berkeley, to go into management consulting, which was predominantly male, but not exclusively male. And I realized how much until I was working myself to the bone. So the kind of work I was doing was strategy consulting, so I'd be advising, in my particular case, healthcare companies on their big picture strategies. Where should they expand a market to? What market should they close? Those kinds of big decisions. And I would normally work for 2 to 3 months, maybe 4, out of town for a client. I'd be flying back and forth, 4 days a week at the client, 3 days a week at home. And it was very much expected that you'd work at least 60 hours a week. Wow. More commonly 80, even 100 hours a week. That's a lot of hours to be at work. But it was so macho. It was like, prove yourself, how hard you could push yourself. And I knew I didn't like the work. I knew that probably a little after my first year there. But I thought, well, look how prestigious this firm is, and look at how much money I'm making, and look at my frequent flyer miles, and I get to stay at fancy hotels, and look at how much smart people I work with. Yes, I work with incredibly bright people. But I was on a particular project, starting my 3rd year in consulting, and I was flying back and forth to them weekly, and I was so stressed out by this particular project that I honestly wish that something just a little bit bad would happen to me so that I could get some time away from work, because I could not bring myself to quit that job. I was so attached to all these so-called benefits, the prestige, the money, etc. So the universe answered me. A few weeks after my wish, I was driving home from San Francisco airport back to Oakland, where I was living at the time, and I was rear-ended by a drunk driver. And I was very, very fortunate in that the accident wasn't so bad that I couldn't walk away. I didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. And the back quarter panel of my car was smashed in, but it was still driving. That was on a Thursday night. On a Friday morning, I show up in the San Francisco office, and the associate partner on my project looks at me and says, "You don't look so good." And I'm like, "Am I having a bad hair day? Do I need to wear a different outfit?" And she said, "No, you look like you got hit by a car." And of course I was stunned. I thought, "Wow, are you psychic or something? Did you know?" And she said, "No, but something just doesn't look right about your eyes." And so I was very lucky. I had a good relationship with my doctor. I got in the same day, and my doctor said, "Yeah, something doesn't look right to me either. Your eyes are a little off balance, and I'd like to run an MRI." And I heard those words and thought, "No, no, no, I don't want them to find anything big wrong with me because I'm also up for promotion." And I figured that I was going to get more money, more responsibility too, but more money. And so I continued to work for another 2 weeks on that project at the same time as I started getting incredible headaches and feeling dizzy. And 2 weeks to the day after the accident, it was a Thursday afternoon, I remember really vividly that I took my laptop to make a presentation to a bunch of high-level executives at this healthcare company. I'm riding the elevator up, not feeling so great, feeling pretty dizzy, pretty nauseous. I open my laptop, I broadcast my big PowerPoint slide, I show the first slide, and then I don't know what happened between then and waking up on the floor, looking up with a bunch of people hovering over me. Like, "What just happened?" And they said, "You passed out."
No.
And I passed out from the pain, the exhaustion. I was working at that point, that particular project, 100 hours a week. And when I came to, I realized I had not been listening to my body. I wasn't listening to the agony of my stomach and the constant upset stomach I had, churning all the time. And I just thought, oh, that's because I'm eating hotel food 4 nights a week. That wasn't really it. I thought that the headaches that I was getting were because I was working so many hours. No, actually I was ignoring some of the signs and signals from, I later found out, no, my head did not hit the windshield, but I had a neck injury and I also had a very severe pinched nerve in my back that if I hadn't attended to it, if that hadn't happened and I hadn't passed out, I could have had permanent damage. So I'm very, very fortunate. My doctor caring for me gave me a month off from work, and I marched into the managing partner of our San Francisco office and said, "The doctor is giving me this month off, but I can handle it. I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to keep working." And she said, thankfully, sometimes in our lives we need other people to tell us what it's time for. She said, "It's time for you to rest." And I was really floored. And I still to this day don't know if she did that out of a liability concern or whether she had genuine heartfelt concern, but I think she actually had heartfelt concern. Mm-hmm. And it was then that at the suggestion of a friend, I went to a week-long workshop with the Institute for Heart Math. It's a funny name, but they're outside Boulder Creek. They're in Boulder Creek, California, outside Santa Cruz. And they work on looking at the resonance of the heart. And it was really a stress management workshop. And what I learned was if normal stress is here, my stress level was way up here, off the charts.
Oh, no.
And when I learned to bring my stress level down by paying attention to my heart and my body, I made a vow. I said, I'm never going back to that level of stress again. I will not do that by choice. I will not work a job like that. I am going to find ease in my life. And it's taken me on this whole path that helped me to find mind-body psychology, first get a master's in it and then a PhD, and to really work with particularly women. I do work with some men, but particularly women, professional women, so that we have so much stimuli coming at us in the business world and life in general. And how do we actually use our bodies as a resource instead of cutting off? Because the business world can be such a heady place. Me in front of my Excel spreadsheets, crunching numbers, or building a PowerPoint slide, or all these things that are very head-based, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But it doesn't get us to pay attention to how we feel in our heart, how we feel in our gut, what's happening with our breathing, what our body messages are, which are constantly signaling us. So this whole journey has woken me up. That unfortunate incident really woke me up to a lifelong path with helping particularly women to tap into that powerful body wisdom and not put it aside the way I had learned to do in the business world. That's just one incident. In so many other ways, we learn not to cry at work. Don't show your emotions at work. Be neutral. All these things that keep us from the wisdom that makes us who we are. So I just feel so fortunate to have transformed that experience into something that helps women to make sensational shifts, particularly in the workplace.
Such a great story, and yet another example of something that can seem so bad or so challenging to actually be such a blessing and such a gift in your life. And you know, it's exciting to know that you're doing this work, and it's exciting to see women and men choose to receive the wisdom of their body in the workplace to balance that very masculine energy. And you know, it is just where we are in evolution right now, that success is determined by how smart you are up here about meeting your goals, about manning it up, you know. And this is nothing against men, it's just what has been prevalent, and
Yes.
it has its place. And also, if our bodies are going to be a contribution in our lives rather than this nuisance that are keeping us from meeting our goals, you know, that, wow, how can we dance with all of that energy? How can we pay attention to those small, quiet signals and that the whispers? I love the body whispers, because our body is always speaking to
Yes.
us, and she'll scream at us if we're not listening, but she would prefer to just whisper and say, hey, hello.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I had to wait to be screamed at and be laying on the floor looking up at a bunch of people, totally embarrassed, of course, like what's going on here? Because I had, you know, I refused to listen to that wisdom that was telling me this work is not healthy for you. You know, it doesn't mean that I couldn't do the work. I was able to do the work, but I didn't love it. My heart wasn't in it. And I think that's another really important piece about our work, you know, that yes, for a while we can do work that doesn't speak to our heart. You know, we're you know, bound and determined, I've got to make money, I've got to take care of my kids. Great. But long term, that's not sustainable. Our heart connects us to our soul, and so does our gut. You know, our body, to me, our body is that truth teller that connects to our soul, or our spirit vision of what our life is. If we keep ignoring it, it's going to wake us up one day and say, hey, enough. You got to do what you're here to do.
Yes, and I'd love to hear you develop that a little bit more. As you became more in touch with your body, how was it supportive in you following your heart and really, you know, increasing the power? And when I'm talking about the power, life force, energy, and showing up in the world in a bigger way.
Yeah, I think a huge piece of it is, you know, I started realizing that my body was energetically speaking to me. And when I say energy, I don't mean, you know, like the kind you plug into the wall, although that's a form of energy too. Uh, it's energy in the form of sensation that tells us what's happening in our life. And sometimes those are whispers and sometimes those are loud. But it's a tingling, a bursting, a bubbling, a heat, a heaviness, a lightness, a tightness, a looseness, a full breath, a shallow breath. Those all are informing us. And it's not that it's a you know, a one for one. Every time you have tightness, it means this. I don't mean that it's a translation, but it's a signal that you want to tune into. And I started really playing with this whole idea. And in my own life, when I finally had the courage to leave management consulting, I knew I had to go after what energized me. So for me, that was things that had to do with learning and creativity. And I wound up being in the online learning world, and that was really satisfying. But I had another huge body awakening in 2001. In a 5-week period, my marriage fell apart. I moved out of the house, moved to a new place. My father had a very serious injury that thankfully he survived and is okay now, but it was very touch and go for him for over a month. I had 2 surgeries and I got laid off from that lovely online learning job that I loved, all in 5 weeks.
Wow.
And at the time, my head was just so lost. You know, I couldn't think straight. I'd been a strategy consultant. I have an MBA. I'd done a lot of analytical work. But that planning function just wasn't working well because I had so much trauma all at once. And the good news, or the blessing in that, was that my heart started to speak to me so loudly, and she said, you always wanted to study psychology. Oh yeah, I always wanted to study psychology. So I remember this really distinctly. It was this weird conversation that I had of sorts between my head and my heart. And my heart said, you know, head, I've had it with you telling me I need to go back into management consulting to make all this money. That's enough. Why don't you be in service of me for a while? Let's just try that out. So I put my head in the service of my heart and I asked my head, figure out how I can go back to school to study psychology. And I really was looking at traditional programs all over the place and they just weren't speaking to me. And I thought, that's weird. My heart was just like, no, not that one, not that one. And then I was at a friend's house and he had Candace Pert's book, Molecules of Emotions, on his coffee table. And I begged to read it. And even though he doesn't usually loan his books, I was persuasive enough to let him. I had to have that book and read it right away that night. He spoke about mind-body psychology. And then I started looking at programs and wound up at the school that I did. And it was highly experiential. So the core practice that we did is something called sensory awareness, which was brought to this country, the United States, by a woman named Charlotte Selver. And it's really about a deep listening to what's happening in the body moment to moment. Like, how am I sitting on the chair? And are both my legs even on the chair? And, you know, where is my weight? And how am I holding my head? And it's not about trying to correct yourself or be more proper. It's about, what's my moment to moment experience? What does it feel like to inhabit my own body? And that, for me, opened up this whole vista of even more energy. Like, when I pay attention to that, I have more energy. I wound up, to fund my education, to fund my PhD, I went back to Berkeley where I'd done my MBA and started being a career advisor. And it started with resumes and cover letters and interview prep. And then it wound up that students would come to me and say, Susan, you did this funky PhD in mind-body psychology. How'd you do that how'd you get there from management consulting? And I realized that what they wanted was guidance for their non-traditional career path. And one of the things that came up for me that came up from the inside out was, here I am working with these MBAs who love to have acronyms and things to run after. So I was like, what's the acronym here that's going to help them get clear about what they're doing? And what came up for me is ROLE, which is Return on Life Energy. But what if you make it your job to maximize your role? In other words, minimizing your energy drains at work and maximizing your energy gains. And those are things you feel in your body. You know, we know when a job fits. We use that word fit, and it actually is. Like, does this fit me right? Or do I feel it's like too big for me or too tight for me or super uncomfortable to me? So I started asking them, where do you get your energy drains from? What saps you? And where do you get your energy gains from? What gives you and feeds you energy? And what could you be doing to turn those drains around so that they become gains? So, for example, for me, a big drain was spending so much time in front of Excel spreadsheets looking at all those numbers. That's fine. Some people love that. But for me, what it told me was, if that was my drain, my gain, if I turned it around, was actually, oh, what I really want is to be with people more. And then I looked at, where my gains were in my work. Oh, I really love teaching. I really love helping people solve things. And that's what started helping me move into coaching the way I do, and doing presentations and teaching workshops, really highly interactive, highly customized. And I use this role idea with other people to help them. Like, I would ask everybody who's watching now, where are your energy drains coming from? And what is that drain? It's actually your body signaling that you want something else. Use your mind and body to get clear on what that is. And where are your energy gains from? Where are those coming from? What are the things you love to do that you want more of? How do you get that? That's where you put your mind and your body together to create work that truly fits you. So yeah, that came out of this crazy experience. That but it's so much about the listening. If we listen to and trust that we have our own wisdom that's meant to be, instead of always, it's not that other people don't have good judgment or good advice or good paradigms or frameworks that we can use, but the ultimate arbiter of all that is us. And to me, that's where the body and the mind, when working together, make us such a powerhouse in the world, make us feel sensational and be sensational in the world.
It's so beautiful, so, so beautiful. I love that you asked your mind to be in service to your heart, and you put your mind to work to support what your heart was yearning for. So our minds are great as long as we've got them channeled in the direction in which we wish to go. So that is super cool. And yeah, there was something else that came to me, and then I just lost my train of thought on that. Bear with me for a second. It was, that as you were talented, what was so brilliant about that, which I love, is when you've taken the mind as far as it can go, and you knew you weren't happy with what was going on, but what was the next thing that was meant to evolve from you? And from that creative space, our mind can't know it. It doesn't know how to get there, or if it tries to do it how other people are doing it, it's not going to get us tapped into our authentic path. And how you used your body and your wisdom of your heart, that gives you that intelligence beyond what your thinking mind has. So it's so cool.
Yeah, your body is I like to call a body three things at least. It's a compass to help you find your direction. It's a barometer to read the room, read the situation. And it's a nonverbal communicator. Our body doesn't, it's our mind who helps translate into words, but when you get that aha feeling or the, woo, you know it, it's in you.
Yeah.
And it's like if your mind can go, wow, there's a real truth in that. So for me, so much of it is about honing and letting the two work together. It's not that I want to throw the mind out. Absolutely not. Especially, like I have a bunch of advanced degrees. I like the smarts part. I don't want that to go away. But it's like using the body, and there's so many brilliant ways to do that. Whether that's breathing techniques that help you to feel calm, or postures that help you to feel confident and powerful. It's like there's such a beautiful partnership, and it makes me actually sad that we separate that. That separation is actually really unnatural. We are one organism.
Yes, absolutely. And, as you're working with your clients in the workplace, or I know you work with entrepreneurs as well, and there can be all of this stress, and if you go down that masculine path of strictly masculine energy of getting things done and all of that. So what do you advise them to do? How do you guide them to embodied and use that information to support them?
Yeah. So first there's three simple tools, three simple awarenesses that I invite people to have. So one is whether your breath is deep or shallow. We know that when our breath is shallow, we're cutting off our oxygen supply, and that is our primary brain food. We need that. So it's really, really important to notice your breathing, because the shallower your breathing is, the more stressed and anxious you're likely to get. So you can actually, start deepening your breath. You're going to shift your life. You're going to shift how you feel. So one is I teach people about breath, deep or shallow. I help them create that awareness. Then I help them create the awareness of, am I tight and constricted, or am I loose and expanded? There's a very different set, right? And so it's starting to notice, oh, I'm in a meeting, my shoulders are up at my ears, or my belly is really tight. What is that telling you? Versus when you're expanded. And then, do I feel heavy or do I feel light? And those two are pretty similar. But just starting to cue in on those things helps us to say, oh, now I start to have a vocabulary for what's going on. And I go a lot deeper. I have a whole body vocabulary that I teach people so that they can do, oh, now, with the vocabulary, and that helps the mind to have a word for what's going on. So it puts the mind at ease, like, okay, I get what's happening. You're just helping me to sift and sort. But the body's been feeling it all along. And then what I start to do is I'll hone in on where's the gap between the performance level that you want and where you actually are right now. And how do we close that gap? For some people, it's changing posture and trying that out. For some people, it's new breathing techniques. For some people, it's movement. You know, but it's like I have an enormous toolkit to offer people, but I want them to start with their own personal awareness. And then I teach something called sensational meditation, which is a form of meditation that you can do with your eyes open. You don't have to close your eyes or sit on a cushion. You know, like that's not very convenient when you're in the middle of a business meeting. But it's really about that sensory awareness to come into it starts to bring the situation, whatever the situation you're in. So let's say you're in a meeting and everybody's getting angry and you can feel the heat rising in the room. Instead of you getting totally keyed in on all the words, you can still be paying attention to the words, you start noticing how you feel in your body. And it's not about, oh my God, I better breathe deeper right now. It's really about, I'm tracking that sensation. And what we know from brain research now is that the more we focus on sensation, the less we can do rumination. So those two operators in the brain, the part of the brain that lets us really hyper-focus on our sensation, and the part of the brain that lets us ruminate, you know, oh my God, what's going on? Worrying, anxious, seeing, you know, negative pictures in the future, that's rumination. Those two are inversely related to each other. So if you start finding that your brain is super busy with, I got to figure this out, I got to sort this out, it's like, no, actually, one of the simplest things you could do is be in the sensation and not judging your sensation like, oh, I shouldn't be tight right now. Just simply feeling with curiosity, with wonder, like you're a little kid. And that's where I love that my clients often find, like, I feel more playful. Well, of course you do. You, like, invoke the energy of curiosity and wonder instead of, I know what's going to happen next. I'm panicked or I'm angry, or, you know, that your mind wants to know what's going to happen, and your body knows how to be in the moment-to-moment unfolding. So it really empowers the women in particular who I work with to feel like they can handle anything. Because when we're in our bodies, we can. We can handle anything. It's our mind who's got a whole set of labels and past experiences that it's, you know, combing through. This is what's going to happen, or, you know, predictions. And the body just is right here, right now.
Yes, it is a brilliant way of being present where you don't have to get on the map. In sensation when you're out during the day, which, I mean, that's really taking the practice out into the world. And you know what I love too is I've never heard that rumination and sensation can't coexist. I just love that. It's like it breaks that loop that's going on in the brain, you know? It's like, yeah.
Yes. Yes, and so that's why it's so important that I teach and train, and that's the practice that we do of being with sensation. And sometimes in the beginning, the same way I was when I started my PhD program, we did this experiential feeling in the body. I was like, can't we go faster? Why can't we? What am I doing, like feeling my leg for the longest time? What? Really? And then I started just loving it. My teacher would give us simple practices to do. Like now, when I put on body lotion, you know, like moisturizer, I don't just like, occasionally if I'm really in a rush, I'll just slap it on. But instead I'm like, I'm feeling my arm and like what it feels like to receive that touch from my fingers, and I'm feeling the fingers here, and I'm feeling this fluidity of the massage, you know, oil or whatever I'm putting on my body, and I'm luxuriating and feeling the pleasure of that. I mean, it can be such a pleasure to be in our bodies. But we're so in that rush, rush, push, push, up in my mind place that we've forgotten that we inhabit a whole organism. So to me, there are simple practices that I bring that, it's like, I love watching my clients go, I feel so happy, I feel so joyful, what's going on? Like, because you're embodying your whole power.
Yes, and thank you for reminding us about pleasure too. That there is this whole world. I mean, if you're in a body battle, it may seem to be a stretch to be at pleasure, yet it is totally possible. And I know I can speak from experience that from someone who used to always be in my head and finding what was wrong about my body all the time, I receive extreme pleasure from it, and it has enriched my life in so many ways beyond just, you know, getting the information I need, just the yumminess of noticing when you're taking a shower, like the fragrance of the shampoo, and, you know, the touch. It's really very yummy.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful for us to wake up to that yumminess, to that pleasure, so that we can take that with us when we go to work or wherever we go. I think it's unspoken, but it's taboo to have pleasure in the workplace, right? I mean, when we talk about the body at work, oh my God, it's sexual harassment. It's did you go to the gym, the company gym, instead of, or it might be ergonomics, instead of like, it would feel really good to get up and take a walk right now. Or, oh, I just need to put on some music for 3 minutes and groove my body and
Yeah.
feel that pleasure, because that pleasure has beautiful, nurturing energy that sustains us. So I'm excited to start changing the conversation and bringing the body deliberately, intentionally into business, and not in a way that's like, let's talk about sexual harassment. Yes, those things really exist, and I'm not denying that. Or to talk about, we have to get all these people at work to lose weight. No, how about waking up the wisdom that we have for being our most productive self? So I love things like seeing on-site massage at a company or on-site yoga. That's fantastic. Just waking up who we really are.
Yes, and when you were talking, I had this visual of a 5-minute dance break. What if, there's played music for 5 minutes? Maybe some companies may do that. I'm not in that corporate environment. I don't know, but just everybody going crazy for 5 minutes, and then, wow, like just moving that energy through, and you're like a new person.
Yes. Yes. Instead of us sitting on our ducks all day. As far as I know, I don't get my best ideas that way.
No, no. Well, I think we've explored it quite a bit, but I want to make sure there wasn't anything else that you wanted to bring to the conversation about why embodiment is so important in the workplace.
I think I just want to bring it home again that the workplace tends to be such a heady place. It's very much the place of thinking, and we're, dare I say, assaulted by emails, our smartphones, all this technology coming at us, which isn't allowing us to be so human. And the human experience to me is an embodied experience, and I actually think it's vital to bring that to work, because I think that's actually a differentiator for companies and for individuals in companies. It's like a personal branding and a company branding to be personal, to have that personal touch, and let that touch be real. Like, I like a real handshake. I wish, I told you this, people don't know this before, but when we first signed on together, I said, oh, I want to give you a big virtual hug. That feeling, that touch brings us alive. But, whether it's a hotel where you get a handshake from the person at the front desk, or somebody taps a little hand on your shoulder to welcome you. Whatever we can do to be embodied, to take that 5-minute dance break, to have a nap room at work or yoga at work, those things that we can do so that we embody who we truly are and bring that out at work. And I feel very fortunate to be in the Silicon Valley area, where there's companies have a big awareness about this. I want to see that spread like wildfire, because I truly believe that when we're more embodied, we're more energized, we can harness more of that creativity, more of our potential, and we can just be that much better at work. We can really bring out even more success. So I really would welcome anybody who wants to have more of a conversation about this. You can feel free to drop me a line anytime at info@sensationalshift.com, because this is my favorite topic in the whole world to talk about.
Well, I totally support you, and I see that vision with you, and I would love to see it spread across the globe. I know that there's certain pockets that are more further ahead in that, so yes, let's do it. Yay! Well, I've been inviting each of the speakers to bring their favorite empowered embodiment tool to the conversation for the listeners, so that there's something that they could do right away. And particularly, let's take it to work. So if you're at work, and let's say you're at a corporation where they have not instituted yoga or a massage or being able to dance, like what could you bring to the conversation that would support us in getting in our bodies? And
So a couple of things. First, I just really invite those three pieces of awareness that I talked about. Being aware of your breathing, being aware of tightness or looseness, being aware of heaviness and lightness. Those are, that, and also the piece about role, return on life energy, watching that. But I want to share a resource with all of your viewers. I can't wait to share this. I created a resource called How to Be More Sensational at Work, a professional woman's guide to embodying your brilliance. And it's a set of awareness practices that you can use that take you into different parts of your body to wake up that wisdom that's so valuable at work. And I'm excited to share things about what you can do with your shoulders, what you can do with your heart, what you can do with your hands that will wake you up. And I'm always, open to hearing your ideas too. I love to hear practices that other people are using so that I can also help, we as a community can spread that. There are great ways for us to wake up at work.
Love that. And that link is below this video, so please click on that link. Go get that toolkit that she's put together for you and play with it. It's just an invitation every day, right, Susan, to choose, okay, I'm going to be more in my body and open up to what's going to support you in that, and one step at a time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yay. Yeah, one embodied step at a time.
Yes!
I love it. You picked that metaphor.
We could talk about this all day long. I'm going to be mindful of the time now, and I want to thank you so much for the work that you're putting out in the world, for the stand that you're taking for women and men to be more embodied and to bring all of themselves to the world. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your magic here with us today. And yeah, thank you, Susan. I so appreciate it.
Oh, it's my deep pleasure, Darlene. Thank you so much for hosting this whole amazing event. I mean, what wisdom you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for taking this time for you today, for choosing to empower your life through these tools, through listening to these amazing women. And stay tuned. We have more videos and more empowered embodiment tools and tips to come. So until then, bye for now. Bye, Susan.
Bye-bye, Darlene.
Bye, everybody.